honorable teachers and jury teams, and beloved audience. Praise be to God Almighty for His blessing and protection. We can all gather in this place in good health. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Grasa Ima Aurelia Bret Agung and will deliver a description about actualization of Pancasila values as a means of strengthening the four pillars of national and state life. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, since the reform era, Pancasila has seemed to be submerged in the vortex of past history. The public is traumatized by abuse of power in the name of Pancasila. It has become antipathetic attitude towards Pancasila, which is considered a political tool to perpetuate power. As a result, Pancasila to disappear swallowed up by the euphoria of reform. Indeed, formally Pancasila is recognized as the basis of the state, but is not used as a pillar involving the nation and state. Ladies and gentlemen, associating Pancasila with a particular government regime is truly a fundamental mistake. Pancasila does not represent and does not belong to a particular era of government at a particular time. Pancasila is the foundation of the state, which will be supporting pillar of the architectural structure called Indonesia. As long as Indonesia exists, Pancasila will accompany it. Government regimes will change over time and will inevitably fade into. Therefore, we must realize the values of Pancasila in the life of the inevitably of nation and state, which will be inspire every national and state behavior from time to time. Ladies and gentlemen, the phenomenon of group fanaticism, rejection of diversity, and frequent acts of terror show that obsession with building a civilized, ethical, and exotic democracy culture is still far from being realized. In addition, the democracy that is realized, idolized is only used a path to ignore the civil rights of citizens and abuse the role of law. From that perspective, the reactualization of Pancasila is necessary to strengthen our pluralistic national understanding. Pancasila does not need to be glorified as something scary, holy, and powerful. However, as a data of nations' noble values, Pancasila needs to be actualized at a more down-to-earth level. One of the government's efforts to reactualize the values of Pancasila is a joint commitment to the state ideology and constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, I choose to discuss the actualization of Pancasila values as one of the principles of nation and state for a reason. Because, according to several references, even though each pillar of national and state life has the same position, Pancasila is the main pillar. As the basis of the state and outlook on life, Pancasila is the source of all sources of law. In addition, if the values of Pancasila have been articulated in the daily life, then it will form a person who religious, humanistic, prioritize the unity and integrity of nation, democracy, and behavior. This means that the other three pillars of life are automatically encompassed within it. In the other other words, actualizing Pancasila values in national and state life will strengthen the four pillars of the building called Indonesia so that it can stand firmly, so that the ideals of realizing an independent, united, sovereign, just, and purpose Indonesian state will be achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, from the description above, it can be concluded that the actualization of Pancasila values must be a well-planned national movement and just a mere political slogan. On this occasion, I invite everyone present to work together to realize the narration ideals. With strong belief and intention, accompanied by hard work, we will become strong, sovereign, and dignified nation in the future. That's my explanation. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, once again, give applause to our friends. Really good speech, really good pronunciation. So, we continue to the next contestant from class 12F2 for my friends Camelia Pasyamin. Time is yours.
Shalom, good morning to all of us. To the respected teacher and my dear friends. Let me introduce myself. My name is Camelia Pasyamin. I'm from class 12F2. First of all, let us say thank you to God because of His blessing that we can gather here today in good health. Ladies and gentlemen, our country Indonesia has a national motto called Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which means berbeda-beda tetapi tetap satu. But let's be honest, are we truly living by this spirit? Or is it just a phrase we repeat without reflection? Maybe the problem isn't with our national motto, but with how we understand it. Do we only learn about diversity in civics class, but ignore it in our everyday lives? This motto was not created out of thin air. Our heroes understood that Indonesia could not be united by a single color, a single culture, or a single belief. Instead, they saw our differences as the foundation of our strength. Ladies and gentlemen, our beloved country is home to over 103,000 ethnic groups, hundreds of local languages, and multiple religions. This diversity is a fact we cannot change, but unity doesn't come automatically. It takes effort, hard work, awareness, and most importantly, justice. Sadly, in today's modern era, the spirit of unity is often tested by differences in opinion, intolerance, and lack of empathy between citizens. Let me bring up a recent incident that has gone viral, the description of a worship service and destruction of a prayer house in Padang on July 27, 2025. In that case, member of GKSI Anugerah Protestant congregation were forcibly stopped and even physically attacked while conducting worship in their prayer house. Ladies and gentlemen, I share this not to provoke, but to remind us how deeply important tolerance between religious communities is. We can only resolve such problems through legal protection so that our differences divide us, but instead become a source of strength for our unity. Our motto means nothing if it's only displayed on walls, printed in textbooks, or recited during ceremonies. It only comes to life when we truly start respecting those who are different from us. So now the question is, what can we do as the next generation of this nation? As future leader of this country, we carry a greater responsibility. We are the bridge between the past and the future. Let's not be a generation that merely inherits a motto without understanding the struggle and meaning behind it. In closing, let's preserve Indonesia unity in diversity and keep it strong. Because within our differences lies great richness. And only through unity can we build a better future for Indonesia. That's all for me. Let us make our differences a strength, not a reason to drift apart. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Freedom!